Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. 3 heads, Old Yang. Give me a second. I'll fix something here. Can't tell what's going on. Two tails, one head, Yin Yang. Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Two heads, one tail, Yang Yin. Bottom trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as broken, broken, solid. This is Gen Mountain. The mountain is still. It is a limit where you must stop. Gen brings each cycle to an end, defining a space where we can recognize, assimilate, and complete our experience. He creates a personal still center amid change where we can retreat for perspective and a firm foundation for new growth. He is well-grounded, confident, and of independent spirit. He is still and knows. Mountain is the youngest son, child of maturity. In the cycle of directions and seasons, he is the northeast, late winter, approaching spring, the pivot between cycles. The top or outer trigram will be read as Solid, broken, broken. This is Zen thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the Trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Zen thunder above Gen mountain give us the primary hexagram, 62. Once our third line transforms from an old yang to a young yin, that will give us a bottom trigram for our supporting hexagram of broken, broken, broken. This is Kun Earth. Kun is Earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest, and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. Zen thunder above Kun Earth give us a supporting hexagram of 16. We'll get the titles to each of our hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 62, predominance of the small. Being fulfilled but acting empty. Inwardly strong, outwardly yielding. Inwardly firm, outwardly flexible. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, joy. Proper timing in action. First off, we will look at the cards from from the I Ching Tarot by Kibi and see the images associated with these hexagrams. 62, small preponderance. Yeah, thunder above mountain. Small preponderance, small things pass, butterflies, birds, disobeying each other. It's smaller than you expected. It passes a little. There is no agreement between words and deeds. If it's a small thing, it's a good result. Again. And 16, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, enthusiasm. Art, pleasure, beforehand, neglect. In order to enjoy the art, preparation is necessary in advance, and it is necessary to put everything together as one. In the case of the line Yao at the top, he enjoys too much and neglects things. Like breathing, because his face is blue. At least the top face. 1, 2. Yeah, there's 6 lines, or 6 faces. Interesting. Next, we will look at our hexagrams through the lens of Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. It's a nice introductory I Ching commentary, but still quite profound. When we approach the I Ching to consult the oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time. Hexagram 62, small exceeding. Key questions. Do you need to cross a line? What small things can you do to meet the needs of the situation? How can you take even more care? Oracle, small exceeding, creating success. Constancy bears fruit. Allows small works, does not allow great works. A bird in flight leaves its call. Going higher is not fitting. Coming down is fitting. Great good fortune. Exceeding or going past is a transition. The moment when you stop or step over a line. The small exceeding means making this crossing in small ways, going beyond boundaries and structures, but paying close attention to them, always responding and adjusting, like a humble traveler crossing over great mountains. This is a creative way to engage with the world, no matter how small you feel. You're in no position to realize great things all at once, but it is worthwhile to do the smaller things that are within your capacity, taking small steps with consistent purpose. Small exceeding is like a bird in flight, small, exposed and vulnerable as it crosses over a vast expanse of sky. It must come down and settle eventually, and even as it passes by and is gone, its call reminds you not to go against your nature and overreach yourself. For your own unique call to be heard, you need to fly closer to the ground and pay attention to details, creating a more sensitive connection with your world. When you come down to earth in this way, scaling down your aspirations, crossing over in small ways and doing small works, then you enjoy great good fortune. Let's picture this work. Image. Above the mountain is thunder, small exceeding. A noble one in actions exceeds in respect. In loss exceeds in mourning. In spending exceeds in economy. Distant thunder is heard far over the mountains. A noble one's actions rest on a firm knowledge of limits, but also go just a little beyond them, like the soft sound of the thunder carrying beyond its origins. He will do more than is expected of him to honor a transition, paying careful attention to what is irreversible and exceeding what might be considered sufficient and sensible in his response. So he shows more respect for all involved, mourns the losses more freely, and also takes more care over expenditure, making provision for the future. Sequence. Small exceeding follows from Hexagram 61, Inner Truth. To have trust naturally means acting on it, and so small exceeding follows. When you are filled with inner conviction, you are naturally moved to action. The truth you experienced inwardly becomes a message you must carry safely out into the world. And 16, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, enthusiasm. Key questions. What do you imagine? What inspires you? How can you use your enthusiasm constructively? Oracle, enthusiasm, fruitful to set up feudal lords and mobilize the armies. The Chinese word for enthusiasm contains an elephant, a character that also means image. The elephant is magnificent, strong, a source of delight, and also unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Imagination and anticipation move us with ease. With them, we can be motivated and inspired, or we can be carried away by the power of our own story. The energetic charge of enthusiasm can be used to set great things in motion. So it is good to use it to expand and enrich your experience by extending your network of communication and support, marshaling your resources ready for future challenges. And it is also good to use such structures to channel the motive power of enthusiasm and keep it from running amok. Then its brightly colored images can be woven securely into the larger patterns and meanings of life. Image. Thunder bursts forth from the earth. Enthusiasm. The ancient kings composed music to honor virtue. They celebrated and worshipped the Supreme Lord, joining with their ancestors. Here's a cool picture of somebody playing a flute. Krishna played a flute. I'm burning Krishna incense right now. Thunder bursts forth from the quiet earth in spring, waking the plants, stirring everything into growth. The ancient kings channeled the joy of spring into music. Singing with the thunder, the people participate in ever-rising energies. Their spontaneous emotion becomes part of a rich and subtle fabric of relationships. The harmony of music, veneration for the supreme divinity, and the family of the ancestors. Sequence. Enthusiasm follows from Hexagram 15, integrity. One who possesses greatness and is also capable of integrity is naturally enthusiastic. Integrity grounds enthusiasm, giving its potent images the foundation in ordinary reality that makes them visions rather than fantasies. Someone who has an authentic vision of great potential cannot help but be enthusiastic. And our changing line 3, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context: an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Hexagram 62, our primary hexagram, changing line 3. Small exceeding, changing line 3. Not going past, he defends himself. Someone following may strike him down. Pitfall. Instead of moving on, you dig in and defend your chosen position. Perhaps it seems as if in staying with what you know, you are defending your vision. After all, you have no idea what you might encounter out in the wider world beyond your ramparts. So rather than completing the transition, you take your stand and convince yourself you can make it work. But it's most unlikely that you can repel reality when it encroaches on all sides. There will surely be something you don't see that brings you down. Next, we will look at Benabel Webb's I-ming The Oracle. She likes to go back to the shamanic roots of the I-ming and gives a lot of helpful surrounding context. Hexagram 62. She calls pay attention to details. The Oracle. Do everything there is to do a little bit better than everybody else. Pay attention to the details, and in that way, you shall achieve success. The timing for your intentions is not right at the moment. It is still premature for you to take action. Initiate small changes towards your goal. Do not petition for a dramatic change or instant results. Advance up the ladder one rung at a time. Great prosperity if you heed the message. There's thunder atop the mountain, inciting small movements, but keeping the greater matter at rest. Maintain stability in the wider foundation, but pay attention to the details and initiate small changes toward progress. A bird in flight delivers a message. It is not the proper time to strive upward. Instead, strive downward. Seek not from the heavens, but seek from the underworld. Seek not to compete with heaven, but if you strive ambitiously, then seek to understand the shadows. Strive downward, not upward. Let the downward striving hoist you up. Great prosperity and fortune if you heed the message. It is not a time for expanding, it is a time for refining. The sage is humbler than the humble, expressing more heartfelt sorrow than the sorrowful, and is more frugal than the frugal. Do everything there is to do a little bit better than everybody else. Pay attention to the details, and in that way you shall achieve success. There will be fruition if you persevere through your endeavor, but undertake it one small step by one small step. Pay attention to the details. In the opening lines, Hexagram 62 warns not to be overly ambitious and trying to overpower heaven's will and nature. The short-term gains yielded from such ambition will be eclipsed by the long-term disasters that ensue. The progression of the first to sixth lines relay that narrative and what will happen if the warning in the opening lines is not heeded. Do not ascend, but you may endeavor to descend. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, enthusiasm, the oracle. Action with enthusiasm. Renounce hesitation. Do not let chronic conditions hold you back. Prepare for the advance. Demonstrate enthusiasm, and you motivate not just yourself, but also the spirit realms to support you. Honor others with enthusiasm, and they will reciprocate. Let the energy of life invigorate you so you can invigorate others. Know your purpose and reason for action, and you will never cease to take action. When you are relentless with your drive, nothing can or will stop you. Thunder shakes the earth. Prepare for an advance. auspicious to take military action. You will be at an advantage when you seek the counsel of a master. Proceed with the endeavor at hand, but first seek out sage advice before initiating action. Do not act in haste. The archer studies the target before an arrow is shot. The king honors the dignitaries with music and celebration. The king honors the divine. The king honors the ancestors. This is a hexagram of great gusto and verve. When you can understand these honoring acts of the king, then you too can accomplish beyond even your highest ambitions. To be motivated to achieve, you must first be motivated by the energy of life. An auspicious omen for taking military action. And our changing line 3, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself. It takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context, an emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Hexagram 62, changing line 3. Pay attention to details. Changing line 3. Third line, leaving the fortress unprotected to go destroy another. Foreboding adversity. Be content with the present situation. Leaving the security of your own stronghold to potentially exploit and harm another for personal gains will result in misfortune. The third line can also come up for a reading when you have unseen adversaries and the oracle is warning you about the envy your accomplishments have unintentionally stirred up. Be careful of who you are letting into your home and who you are trusting. In a very mundane and lighter reading of the third line, do not leave your home unprotected. It may be vulnerable to intruders. Qiang in such a context is less about going out to destroy than it is about picking up your axe and heading out to hunt, or in present day terms, going to work. In all instances, tread forth with care. Next, we will look at things through the lens of Lu I-ming's Taoist teaching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 62, Predominance of the Small. Predominance of the small is developmental, beneficial if correct. It is suitable for a small affair, but not for a great one. The call left by a flying bird should not rise, but descend. This is very auspicious. Explanation. Predominance of the small means that yin exceeds yang. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is thunder, active, and below is mountain, still. Acting with restraint, basing action on stillness. Stillness is stable and action is not on a large scale. Also, in the body of the hexagram, 2 yangs are inside 4 yins. Inwardly fulfilled, outwardly empty. Inwardly firm, outwardly flexible. Using the small to nurture the great, it is therefore called predominance of the small. This hexagram represents being fulfilled and thus acting empty. It follows on the previous hexagram, discipline. In discipline, one can be joyful even in danger, inwardly being autonomous, using things of the world to practice the principles of the Tao, using social activities to restore celestial qualities, the foundation of life stable, one can enter from striving into non-striving. In spiritual alchemy, before primordial true yang has been restored, one should empty the mind to seek to fill the belly. Once primordial true yang has returned, one should fill the belly and also empty the mind. The achievement of emptying the mind is the means to operate the natural true fire, to burn away the mundane energy of acquired conditioning until one is freed from it. This is why predominance of the small is developmental. However, though predominance of the small is developmental, it is only beneficial if correct. If it is not correct, it is not developmental. The correct way of predominance of the small is that action not stray from tranquility, that action be carried out with tranquility. With movement and stillness as one, the real person plunges into the profound depths, floating about yet keeping within the circle, neither indifferent nor obsessed, keeping a very subtle consistency. This is suitable for a small affair, but not a great one. A small affair means non-striving. A great affair means striving. Striving is the way to find yang. Non-striving is the way to nurture yang. Once one has filled the belly, it is appropriate that the small predominate to nurture yang. If you are capable of the great but not the small, you will not only be unable to preserve yang, yang will even be damaged. Predominance of the small being beneficial when correct means it is beneficial in small action, not in great action. Beneficial in small stillness, not in great stillness. When one acts yet is able to be still, being active in the midst of stillness, stopping in the appropriate place and acting on that, even as one acts, one does not go beyond the appropriate position. This is like the call left by a flying bird should not rise but descend. Though a bird flies up, its call goes down. This means action not straying from tranquility. Action not straying from tranquility should not rise but descend, the small predominating and nurturing the great, extracting lead and adding mercury, incubating for 10 months. When the spiritual embryo is completely developed, with a thunderous cry the infant appears. When nurturance is sufficient, the auspicious outcome is great. The small predominates, but the good it does is great. Sublime and subtle indeed is the predominance of the small that is beneficially correct. And our supporting hexagram 16, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Joy. It is advantageous to set up a ruler and mobilize the army. Explanation. Joy is happiness. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is thunder, active, and below is earth, compliant. Acting in accord with the time, active yet also compliant, it is therefore called joy. This hexagram represents summoning yang by yin. It follows on the previous hexagram, great possession. In great possession, strength and understanding are employed together. It is the path of wealth and daily renewal. For wealth to be daily renewed, it is necessary to act in accord with the time. Only then can one succeed. If one can accord with the time, then the promotion of strength can be correct, and the use of intelligence can be appropriate. The firing process does not go wrong. The measure of the elements is regulated. Haste and relaxation are in order, and advance and withdrawal accord with the appropriate time and measure, reaching effortlessness by way of effort. There is no problem of losing what one has gained. What is the happiness of harmonious action like? As an image of harmonious action, nothing compares to setting up a ruler and mobilizing the army. The ruler is the leader of the nation, and the general is the leader of the army. When the leader is set up in accord with the timing of heaven, then the country is peaceful. When the mobilization of the army is in accord with the people's hearts, then the troops are complete. The mind is the leader of the body, like the ruler and the general. As it is beneficial to set up a ruler and mobilize the army for harmonious action, so is it beneficial to rectify the mind and train the body. If one acts in accord with the time, it is beneficial. If one's action is not in accord with the time, it is not beneficial. When it is beneficial, one attains happiness. When it is not beneficial, one is not happy. The path of producing happiness is the consummation of harmonious action. Next, we will look at our changing line 3, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context: an emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Hexagram 62, changing line 3. If you do not overcome and forestall it, indulgence will cause harm, which would be unfortunate. Explanation: when yang energy is replete and it is time to forestall danger and foresee peril, if strength is imbalanced, knowing how to be great but not small, by not overcoming and forestalling it, indulgence will do harm. The celestial jewel that has been gained will be lost again. This is the great predominating and not knowing how to let the small predominate. We will also look at the commentary section for each of our hexagrams, keeping in mind that the changing line was the most focused part of the reading. Hexagram 62, excessive smallness. Thunder above, mountain below. There's thunder over a mountain, excessively small. Thus, superior people are excessively differential in conduct, excessively sad in mourning, excessively frugal in consumption. Excessive smallness means excess in being small. Above is thunder, below is mountain. There is thunder over a mountain. When thunder is up in the sky, its sound reaches afar, but when thunder is over a mountain, its sound is muffled. This is the image of excessive smallness. What superior people see in this is that practitioners of the Tao should minimize themselves in their daily activities and not become too grand. This is because it is permissible to go to excess in being small, but not in being grand. Therefore, superior people are excessively differential in conduct, excessively sad in mourning, and excessively frugal in consumption. It is not right to be too differential in conduct, but when one is differential, one does not look down on people or become arrogant, so there is no harm in being excessively differential. It is not right to be too sad in mourning, but when one is sad, there is grief in the heart and one esteems nature and life, so there is no harm in being excessively sad. It is not right to be too frugal in consumption, but when one is frugal, one does not waste natural resources and is content with what one has, so there is no harm in being excessively frugal. These three things are all examples of excessive smallness, excessive without being too extreme. This is how it is with such small matters. When it comes to the great matter of nature and life, one must know the appropriate moments to advance and withdraw. To sustain and negate, one must know the principles of filling and emptying, effacing and fostering. Since even the slightest miss can result in an enormous loss, no excess is permissible. In the image of the hexagram, there's thunder over a mountain. The mountain is still, the thunder is in movement. Action is carried forth by means of stillness. Action is based on stillness. Obviously, the small may be excessive, but the great may not be excessive. And our our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, joy. Thunder above, earth below. When thunder emerges, the earth stirs. Joy. Thus did the kings of yore make music to honor virtue, offering it in abundance to God, thereby to share it with their ancestors. Joy is happiness. Above is thunder, below is earth. This is thunder coming from the earth, stirring and rising up. When positive energy prevails harmoniously, all things are pleasantly uplifted by it. This is the image of joy. What the kings of yore saw in this was that virtue is what is commanded by heaven and is the root of human life, so it should be a joy to cultivate and practice it. Therefore, they made music to honor virtue. Joy is that whereby virtue is made harmonious. Virtue is that whereby joy is made complete. If one creates enjoyments without honoring virtue, that is called creating enjoyment in the midst of misery. But by using joy to harmonize virtue, the virtue becomes more exalted. By using virtue to create joy, the joy becomes more harmonious. When virtue and joy coincide, this is called true happiness. The richness of the music of that happiness and joy is sufficient to offer to God and to share with the ancestors. Since what God likes is virtue, and what the ancestors like is virtue too, offerings to God and to the ancestors are offerings of virtue. When one creates enjoyment and happiness without losing virtue, this is obeying God and remembering the ancestors. Obeying God is answering heaven. Remembering the ancestors is repaying our debt. When people are born, they receive their lives from God and their bodies from their ancestors. The body is that whereby life is carried. Life is that whereby the body is completed. Since the body and life are inseparable, repaying our debt is answering heaven. Answering heaven is repaying our debt. When we answer heaven and repay our debt, we can be happy. Such is the effect of finding joy in honoring virtue. How can people be happy without honoring virtue? Next, we will look at James de Corn's perspective on the I Ching. He calls it the Gnostic Book of Changes. And he is a practitioner of the Tao himself. And he synthesizes several I Ching commentaries here. I've left links in the description box below if you want to check out that. It's just a PDF you can read along even if you wanted. He puts quotes in here from things like the Kabbalah and people like Carl Jung. 62 he calls small powers. Other titles might be preponderance of the small, the symbol of excess in small things, the small get by, slight excess, small exceeding, small surpassing, excess of the small, small gains, conscientiousness, smallness in excess, exceeding the mean, proliferation of details. A quote from D.F. Hook, like a bird, do not fly too high or attempt too much, because this will lead to disaster. Judgment, leg. Small powers indicates that there will be progress and attainment in small affairs, but not in great affairs. It will be advantageous to be firm and correct. It is like the song of a flying bird. It is better to descend than to ascend. In this way, there will be good fortune. Blowfold. The small get by, success. Persistence in a righteous course brings reward. Small things can be accomplished now, but not great ones. When birds fly high, their singing is out of tune. The humble, but not the mighty, are favored now with great good fortune. To aim high now would be to put ourselves out of accord with the times. Slight excess, success. Continuing is of benefit. undertaking small things, not great things. The song of the flying bird, it is not good to go up, it is good to stay below. Great good fortune. Slight excess signifies the slight excess or small mistake that can prevent the achievement of great things. Ritzema/Karcher, small exceeding, growing, harvesting trial, permitting small affairs, not permitting great affairs. Flying bird, abandoning's sound, above not proper, below proper, the great significant. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of an overwhelming variety of encounters and details. It emphasizes that an excessive concern with adapting yourself to these inner and outer events is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg. The image of thunder above a hill forms small powers. The superior man, in accordance with this, in his conduct exceeds in humility, in mourning exceeds in sorrow, and in his expenditure exceeds in economy. Wilhelm/Baines, thunder on the mountain, the image of preponderance of the small. Thus in his conduct, the superior man gives preponderance to reverence. In bereavement, he gives preponderance to grief. In his expenditures, he gives preponderance to thrift. The superior man derives an imperative from this image. He must always fix his eyes more closely and more directly on duty than does the ordinary man, even though this might make his behavior seem petty to the outside world. He is exceptionally conscientious in his actions. Blowfold, this hexagram symbolizes thunder over the mountains. The superior man now acts with too much reverence, experiences too much sorrow from bereavement, and is overly thrifty in satisfying his needs. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, in small powers we see the magnetic lines exceeding the others and giving the intimation of progress and attainment. To be advantageous, such excesses must be associated with firm correctness and must always be in harmony with the requirements of the time. The magnetic lines are in the central places, and hence it is said that small excesses may be done in small affairs with good effect. Of the dynamic lines, one is not in its proper place, and the other is not central. Thus it is said that small excesses should not be done in great affairs. In the hexagram, we have the symbol of the flying bird, whose song reminds us that it is better to descend than to ascend. To ascend is contrary to what is reasonable in the case, while to descend is natural and right. Leg, the meaning of this hexagram, in which an excess of yin lines prevails, may be grasped by contrasting its image with that of hexagram number 28, critical mass, in which an excess of yang lines prevails. Here the idea is the prevalence of small and inferior powers, and the lesson to be learned is how to distinguish essentials from non-essentials. Is it ever good to deviate from the established course of procedure? The answer is that it is permissible only in small matters, but never in matters of import. Sometimes form may be dispensed with, but never substance, and the thing must always be done responsibly and with appropriate humility. The symbol of the bird is to teach humility. It is better for it to descend, keeping near to where it can perch and rest, than to ascend into the homeless regions of the upper air. Notes and paraphrases, judgment. Ground your flights of fancy. The superior man bends over backwards to be correct. Small powers shows the preceding figure of inner truth turned inside out. Here the magnetic lines are all on the outside, uncontained and uncontrolled. The hexagram often reflects a situation in which the archetypes, the passions, appetites, emotions, drives, and instincts have left their proper places within the psyche and are flying free like birds escaped from the zoo. Most of the lines either depict the danger of such a situation or warn about how to control it. Quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest, in this inflated, compulsive state of identity, we in the drive are at our most harmful. The drive will unfold and we will act out its extreme, inappropriate, and destructive side. In the process, we get the worst of it, along with the other people involved. The wrong thing usually happens at the wrong time and in the wrong place. A capacity for moving toward differentiation and transforming the drive will not arise until the state of identity has been dissolved. This requires a confrontation of the drive as a thou, as something that is not I, as something separate from ourselves. Only at this point can the inner dialogue begin. Until then, the drive remains unconscious, primitive, and destructive. Only after the identity has been dissolved by learning to experience the drive as an autonomous entity that is separate from the ego, do we get a chance to choose a right time and place and to develop the positive potential of the drive. Interestingly, the only line that seems to be correctly out of its cage is the second, suggesting a situation in which an intuitive inner wisdom takes proper precedence over the usual firm correctness of reason. Next, we will take a look at our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, James Acorn calls enthusiasm / self-deception / repose. Other titles might be the symbol of harmonious joy, happiness, providing for / provision, excess, merriment, self-confidence, contentment, harmonize, excitement, intemperance, self-deception. Quote from D.F. Hook, repose in the absolute confidence that the action now being taken is right. Also refers to music. Judgment. Leg. Enthusiasm indicates that feudal princes may be set up and the army advantageously mobilized. Wilhelm / Bain's enthusiasm. It furthers one to install helpers and to set armies marching. Blofeld. Repose profits those engaged in building up the country and sending forth armies. This means that perfect certainty as to the rightness of our cause is of great value under the conditions mentioned. The usual meaning of this character is beforehand or happiness. In the English translation of Wilhelm's version, it appears as enthusiasm. Repose was suggested by the Chinese experts who kindly vetted this manuscript. At first, I felt hesitant about adopting it until I realized that where it is used favorably, it must be understood as the kind of mental repose which follows absolute confidence that the action now being taken is the right one. In lines 1, 3, and 6, however, it clearly means failure to act when action is essential. In line 5, failure to act owing to incapacity. Lu. Happiness. It is of benefit to build up the country or business and send the army forth. Receivers of this hexagram should be wary of exhibiting excessive enthusiasm when beginning a new undertaking. If they are not, there will be misfortune. The hexagram also advises that everything necessary for advancement should be made ready. Then, if an opportunity presents itself, it should be seized immediately, without hesitation. Ritzema / Karcher, providing for, harvesting, installing feudatories to move legions. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of what is needed to meet the future. It emphasizes that accumulating strength through foresight and prudence so things can be fully enjoyed is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to provide for. The image, leg. Thunder exploding out of the earth, the image of enthusiasm. The ancient kings, in accordance with this, composed their music and honored virtue, offering it especially to God when they worshipped him at the service of their ancestors. Wilhelm / Baines. Thunder comes resounding out of the earth, the image of enthusiasm. Thus the ancient kings made music in order to honor merit and offered it with splendor to the supreme deity, inviting their ancestors to be present. Ritzema / Karcher. Thunder issuing forth from earth impetuously, providing for. The earlier kings used arousing delight to extol actualizing Tao. exalting worship's supreme above, using equalizing the grandfather predecessors. To actualize Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, D, acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, enthusiasm shows one dynamic line inspiring responsive obedience in all the others. Devoted obedience takes action. Such obedient action conforms to natural law and creates order and discipline in the people. The planets and the seasons follow their natural cycles. The sages similarly obey the laws of their nature, and the people acknowledge their regulations and punishments as just. Leg. Enthusiasm shows harmony and contentment throughout the kingdom, a time when the people rejoice in their sovereign and readily obey him. At such a time, his appointments and any military undertakings would be hailed and supported. Because he is close to the fifth place of dignity, the dynamic fourth line is seen as the chief executive officer of the ruler. The ruler has confidence in him, and all of the magnetic lines yield their obedience. Obedience is the attribute of the lower trigram, which here takes the initiative and uses movement, which is the attribute of the upper trigram. The symbolism of the image is more obscure than usual. The use of music at sacrifices is supposed to assist in producing the union between God and his worshippers, as well as the present and past generations. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Delegate authority and gather your forces. The superior man synchronizes his will with the intent of the self via the principles of the work. Enthusiasm is the reverse of the preceding hexagram of temperance. In temperance, we saw the calm strength of a mountain concealed within the earth. In enthusiasm, we see thunder exploding out of the ground and into the sky. The strength that was formerly tempered and restrained is now released. It is significant to note that while every line of temperance is more or less favorable, every line of enthusiasm is either negative or cautionary. Even the generally positive fourth line carries a hint of warning about doubt. Negatively, self-deception, the passion of true believers, seems to be what this hexagram is portraying. The figure often suggests a callow or deluded buoyancy, the kind of outlook associated with romantic idealists. In its most negative aspect, enthusiasm is intemperance, the exact opposite of the moderation and restraint shown in the preceding hexagram. The behavior of an untrained Great Dane puppy suddenly bursting into a formal dinner party could be described as enthusiasm, but hardly a desirable form thereof. The lower trigram of obedient devotion has suddenly employed the action and energy of the upper trigram of thunderous shock to express itself. This is consistent with the code of the superior man. This is inconsistent with the code of the superior man. Conversely, in its most positive sense, enthusiasm suggests the surety of total self-confidence. Blofeld translates this as repose, explaining that the name was suggested to him by his Chinese advisors. We begin to understand this subtle distinction when we compare the seemingly obscure connection with music in the image with a passage from Chuangzi. He who understands the music of heaven lives in accordance with nature in his life and takes part in the process of change of things in his death. In repose, his character is in harmony with the yin principle. In activity, his movement is in harmony with the yang principle. Therefore, he who understands the music of heaven is not blamed by heaven or criticized by men. It is said, in action he is like heaven. In repose he is like the earth. Because his mind has found repose, therefore the creation pays homage to him. To understand the music of heaven is to attain repose, which is another way of describing the tranquility that comes with furthering the intent of the self. The only dynamic line in the hexagram is in the minister's place, just below the fifth line ruler. He has the confidence of his sovereign, and his actions therefore accord with heaven. We can turn the Stoics' We can turn to the Stoics to find an illustration of this idea. A quote from Epictetus: "My will is simply that which comes to pass, for I esteem what God wills better than what I will. To him will I cleave as his minister and attendant, having the same movements, the same desires, in a word, the same will as he." Thus we see that the hexagram can describe either one of two opposite conditions: the intemperate enthusiasm of ego confidence, a synonym for self-deception, or the calm repose of true self-confidence, capitalized self. The 15th and 16th hexagrams, each the inverse of the other, represent magnetic and dynamic aspects of the same general idea. Enthusiasm, when it emanates from the self, capital Self, is just temperance in action. Next, we will look at our changing line 3, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here's some places you may find yourself. It takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context: an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. Hexagram 62, small powers, changing line 3. Leg. The third line dynamic shows its subject taking no extraordinary precautions against danger, and some in consequence finding opportunity to assail and injure him. There will be evil. Wilhelm/Baines. If one is not extremely careful, somebody may come up from behind and strike him. Misfortune. Blofeld. Unless he takes appropriate precautions, one of his subordinates may slay him. Misfortune. Lou. If he does not protect himself carefully, someone will stab him in the back. Misfortune. Ritzema/Karcher. Nowhere exceeding, defending against it. Adhering, maybe killing it. Pitfall. Slofnacy. Not surpassing him, but repelling him, following which someone injures him. Inauspicious. Cleary 1. If you do not overcome and forestall it, indulgence will cause harm, which would be unfortunate. Cleary 2. One does not take precautions in excess, so pursuers attack one. This is unfortunate. Wu. Ignoring to secure a little excess of protection, he may be fatally wounded. Foreboding. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. There will be evil. How great it will be. Wilhelm/Baines. What a misfortune this is. Blofeld. Were that to happen, it would indeed be misfortune. Ritzema/Karcher. Wherefore a pitfall thus indeed. Cleary 2. Pursuers attack one. How unfortunate. Wu. How can it not be foreboding? Leg. The subject of line 3 is too confident in his own strength and too defiant of the magnetic enemies that seek to hurt him. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The man is disdainful of weak enemies and does not exercise adequate precautions in the face of apparently insignificant signs. He will be hurt. Wing. This is a warning. Because you are in the right and things have gone smoothly in the past, you may be tempted to overlook details and become overly confident. Dangers are lurking. They can be avoided with conscientiousness. Take precautions now. Editor. The magnetic enemies are all of the yin lines in the hexagram, seen here as treacherous adversaries. There is no ambiguity in this line at all. It is saying in the clearest possible terms to watch out. A quote from M.E. Harding in Psychic Energy. We are therefore on safe ground when we speak of a personal part of the psyche consisting of the conscious and controllable elements, and a non-personal part consisting of those elements not controlled by the conscious I, but subordinated to and acting independently of it, often dominating it and forcing it to act contrary to its desires. A man in this stage of self-consciousness does not realize as a rule that ideas occur to him without his willing them, that actions are performed through him, that he is being used by thoughts and impulses arising from something other than his I. James de Corn breaks changing line 3 down into 2 possible succinct definitions, A and B. You are vulnerable to harm. Wake up. And B, you have taken no precautions against the threat of attack from unseen quarters. If you are not extremely careful, you're going to get hurt. Next, we will get a randomly card drawn chapter from, nope, you know what? We need to read our secret hexagram, which is the energy beneath the situation, or the forces shaping the moment of time, that kind of idea. So to get that, we'll take the second, third, and fourth lines from our primary hexagram, and then our third, fourth, and fifth lines from our supporting hexagram. So second, third, and fourth of the primary are going to be read as broken, solid, solid. And then after that, the changing line will change and it'll be broken, solid, broken. So broken, solid, solid, and then broken, solid, broken, which would give us broken, solid, solid, Xun, wind, or wood, beneath broken, solid, broken, Con, water, would give us hexagram. Okay, wait, so broken, solid, solid. That's going to be the bottom one. I'd read these backwards. Broken, solid, solid, Xun, wind, or wood, and broken, solid, broken, Con, water. 48. Yes. Hexagram 48 is our secret hexagram, and we will read it from Benabel Wynn's I-ming The Oracle. First, though, we'll get the title of 48 through Liu I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which is The Well. Accumulation of effort to cultivate character, nurturance of others. One of my absolute favorite hexagrams. And in fact, when Carl Jung asked the I Ching, I just put the Jung, I almost put that, I started writing J instead of W. The Jung, the Well. When he asked what it thought about him introducing it to the English-speaking world, the I Ching, that is, helping to introduce it, he got the Well and another changing line or something, which further emphasized a certain aspect of that, but that was interesting. Hexagram 48, The Well, in Benabel Wynn's I-ming The Oracle. Fountainhead is what Benabel Wynn calls it. The Oracle. Society may change, but people's primitive needs never do. Nourish the people's primitive needs. Failing to reach the depths of people's inner essentials will cause your undertaking to fall short. To succeed, reach deep into the people's hearts and deeper into the tempest. The situation at hand is much deeper, much more meaningful than you initially perceive it to be. Tensions arise from an ideological struggle. Adversity and troubles, take caution. Keep the name of the divine close by and at the ready, and invoke heaven in your times of need. Dispensing nourishment, the wood draws up the water through the well, like the stems of plants draw up water to the blossoms. The village has changed, its well has not. Coming and going, the well is in frequent use. Although politics can change society, the people's primitive needs will always remain the same. No matter how people develop or society advances, there will always be a return to the fountainhead. Well water near depletion, a rope that is too short, and a cracked water jug brings misfortune. A rope that is too short symbolizes efforts that fall short of reaching the fountainhead or source of all life. Failing to reach the depths of the fountainhead means failing to truly understand life. A cracked water jug symbolizes human negligence, not instilling enough care into the study of philosophy and divinity. For your endeavor to succeed, you must extend a rope long enough to reach the fountainhead. You must understand the source of the situation at hand. The sage motivates the people to work and appeals to them to help one another. The primary message of this hexagram is that of rejuvenation and plenitude for the masses, nourishment for the people. Your endeavor is one that must be expanded to include nourishment for a greater good. At this time, you are still being short-sighted. The situation at hand is much deeper, much more meaningful than you initially perceive it to be. Adversity and troubles, take caution. Now we will get a randomly drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching while we sum up the reading. Our primary hexagram, 62, small exceeding, has Gen Mountain beneath Zen Thunder. It has the image of a bird that is high in the sky and needs to descend rather than ascend. And the idea is that it could be dangerous to stay in the sky too long for a small bird. And so coming down so that it may perch in branches and hide and that kind of thing is more the right action for it to take at the time. And in it, it is okay to take on small affairs, but not great affairs. It is going and honoring a limit or a line and crossing over that line, but in a very small way. It's like knowing the boundaries and going just beyond them. Our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, is hexagram 16, enthusiasm. In enthusiasm, we have Kun Earth below Zen Thunder. And thunder bursts out of the earth, and there's all this enthusiasm. It's potentially could be one of two things. This enthusiasm could be just like a puppy breaking into a formal gathering, and certainly it is enthusiastic, but not a positive form of that anyone would want. Or if it is based on the self, it's really just temperance in action. So it depends on what enthusiasm is based on, whether or not it is appropriate. Our changing line is changing line 3. It advises caution in leaving the home or going out. If we're not careful and we don't take the right precautions, elements that we're not paying attention to, there might be an attack, like a stab in the back from maybe people we don't expect to be stabbed in the back from. When one goes over that line, it can cause issues for elements to come into the mix that would seek to, drag somebody back. Since, why are you crossing this line? Who are you to cross a line? In that time, it is important to be conscientious of etiquette and our dealings with each other and others, and how we act should be appropriate as much as we need to look into the details of things. We need to make sure that we're honoring the details and not neglecting things, and be cautious. The secret hexagram is 48, the well. We can move the city, but we can't move the well. The things that the needs of the people won't change. So if there's a change in society, we still need to make sure that the nourishment of the people is being attained. That with the focus going out on changes in the world, and maybe especially crossing over a line, what might be happening needs to not overlook the immediate needs of the people, essentially, the immediate needs of the situation. In our changing line 3, it talked about not ascending, but descending. This was in, I think, Benabel Wen's commentary. And that that was similar to our primary hexagram, excess of the small, is that the bird was to descend rather than to further ascend into the sky. So both with our primary hexagram and our changing line, descent was the most important at the time. And with the well being the secret hexagram, we want to make sure that the rope on the bucket is long enough that we can actually get the bucket down into the well to draw water, and that the bucket is strong enough not to break so that we can bring the well water up. So in this idea, there's really kind of like a highly emphasized focus on depth and descent. It's maybe that in our strive for greatness, we can overlook the descent that is necessary to get to the depths and the things that sustain us. We could overlook our very own root that nurtures us if we're not careful and too focused on immediate results. And not only that, the correct focus at a time like this, I would suggest, would be to look and work internally as much as possible without seeking a lot of external results per se, but a lot of deep inner self-reflection and making sure that we're going deep enough to get the nourishment that we need, and that others might need from us. And if we have the correct focus and we're paying attention to the matters that are most essential at the time, then we may just be safe from provoking envy or provoking malice. And we may be able to, through nurturing and gaining access to that deep well, the ability to convert those potentially that might want to stab us in the back. I do want to read that descent versus ascent thing that I got. I think it was in Changing Line 3 out of Benabel Wen. 62, Changing Line 3, third line. I'll read it anyway, but I don't know if this is the one. Be content with the present situation, leaving the security of your own stronghold to potentially exploit and harm another for personal gains will result in misfortune. The third line can also come up for a reading when you have unseen adversaries and the oracle is warning you about the envy of your accomplishments have unintentionally stirred up. Be careful of who you are letting into your home and who you are trusting. In a very mundane and lighter reading of the third line, do not leave your home unprotected. It may be vulnerable to intruders. Kyong in such a context is less about going out to destroy than is about picking up your axe and heading out to hunt, or in present day terms, going to work. In all instances, tread forth with care. And I think maybe then it was I-ming's Taoist teaching where we got that. 62, Changing Line 3. Predominance of the small. I said excess of the small. Predominance of the small, rather. If you do not overcome and forestall it, indulgence will cause harm, which would be unfortunate. Explanation. When yang energy is replete and it is time to forestall danger and foresee peril, if strength is imbalanced, knowing how to be great but not small, by not overcoming and forestalling it, indulgence will do harm. The celestial jewel that has been gained will be lost again. This is the great predominating and not knowing how to let the small predominate. We'll read it in Hilary Barrett. I know I saw the descent thing in here, so I can't remember which one it was. But I think it's this one. Changing Line 3. Not going past, he defends himself. Someone following may strike him down. Pitfall. Instead of moving on, you dig in and defend your chosen position. Perhaps it seems as if, in staying with what you know, you are defending your vision. After all, you have no idea what you might encounter out in the wider world beyond your ramparts. So rather than completing the transition, you take your stand and convince yourself you can make it work. But it's most unlikely that you can repel reality when it encroaches on all sides. There will surely be something you don't see that brings you down. All right, so James the Corn then. I wonder where I saw it. Did I see it in I-ming, but maybe somewhere else in his reading? I don't know. James the Corn, Gnostic Book of Changes, 62 Small Powers, Changing Line 3. Notes and paraphrases. Wing. This is a warning because you are in the right and things have gone smoothly in the past. You may be tempted to overlook details and become overly confident. Dangers are lurking. They can be avoided with conscientiousness. Take precautions now. Editor. The magnetic enemies are all of the yin lines in the hexagram, seen here as treacherous adversaries. There is no ambiguity in this line at all. It is saying in the clearest possible terms to watch out. A quote from M.E. Harding, we are therefore on safe ground when we speak of a personal part of the psyche consisting of the conscious and controllable elements, and a non-personal part consisting of those elements not controlled by the conscious I, but subordinated to and acting independently of it. often dominating it and forcing it to act contrary to its desires. A man in this stage of self-consciousness does not realize as a rule that ideas occur to him without his willing them, that actions are performed through him, that he is being used by thoughts and impulses arising from something other than his I. James DeCorn breaks changing line 3 down into two possible succinct definitions, A and B. A, you are vulnerable to harm, wake up. And B, you have taken no precautions against the threat of attack from unseen quarters. If you are not extremely careful, you're going to get hurt. In the notes and paraphrases for just Hexagram 62 in general, it says, judgment, ground your flights of fancy. The superior man bends over backwards to be correct. Small power shows the preceding figure of inner truth turned inside out. Here the magnetic lines are all on the outside, uncontained and uncontrolled. The hexagram often reflects a situation in which the archetypes, the passions, appetites, emotions, drives, and instincts have left their proper places within the psyche and are flying free like birds escaped from the zoo. Most of the lines either depict the danger of such a situation or warn about how to control it. E.C. Whitmont, Symbolic Quest, quote, in this inflated, compulsive state of identity, we and the drive are at our most harmful. The drive will unfold and we will act out its extreme, inappropriate, and destructive side. In the process, we get the worst of it, along with the other people involved. The wrong thing usually happens at the wrong time and in the wrong place. A capacity for moving toward differentiation and transforming the drive will not arise until the state of identity has been dissolved. This requires a confrontation of the drive as a thou, as something that is not I, as something separate from ourselves. Only at this point can the inner dialogue begin. Until then, the drive remains unconscious, primitive, and destructive. Only after the identity has been dissolved by learning to experience the drive as an autonomous entity that is separate from the ego, do we get a chance to choose a right time and place and to develop the positive potential of the drive. Something I love about James DeCorn's Gnostic Book of Changes is that he often looks at everything in terms of internal work. And so what's kind of terrifying is the idea of being stabbed in the back, maybe by somebody that you weren't expecting to be stabbed in the back by. Because in this, one of the commentaries talked about it being a subordinate. So maybe someone who you've trusted. It reminds me of the story of Jesus with Judas, right? The being betrayed by a kiss. But I guess he saw it coming, supposedly, and all of that. But anyway, it's kind of terrifying to think about being stabbed in the back. That's now all of a sudden like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. But thinking in terms of internal alchemy and how your inner world might be projecting what's going on into your exterior world, the very first step would be to act internally. And so thinking of these things as internal complexes that could be running amok like birds flying free in a zoo or something like that. It talked about the importance of not overly identifying with any of our urges or drives or the elements of our psyche, that if we're not careful, we'll be compelled to act in a way that we wouldn't had we seen through the urge. It's almost like at a moment where we've crossed over a line and maybe even done so in a small way, potentially, at least in terms of how the reading is describing it, that we exceed, the small exceeding is going past the line in a very small way and not in a great way. even though maybe that was done appropriately. It might be a time where an internal drive that maybe hasn't been addressed or is just lurking behind the scenes might see the potential to take advantage of the situation, or maybe even cause self-sabotage, where it has the ability, in crossing over a line, to take advantage and use its moment in time to act and overwhelm the rest of the person, to be like a glove for whatever it wants to do at the time. And urges like this happen. You get in an argument and you're trying your best to keep your cool and treat the other person respectfully, and maybe they're not doing the same for you. And it's easy in those kind of moments to just allow, the frustration in you to be acted on. And then once that happens, it's really difficult to turn around from that. It's almost like you have to defend your reaction. And so all of you is thrown headlong into something that, had you been clear-headed, may not have acted on at all. So the focus needs to be in the details. It needs to be on correct action and maintaining firm correctness, and also being cautious and potentially not straying too far from home, so to speak, if that might be in a sense of not going too far away from your internal ideal, and stay founded in that, and wary of any urge that might come overtake you, being critical of it, and seeing whether or not it accords with your true ideal inside, or your true self, or the self, the goal of the work, or if it's something that is maybe ego-driven, or just taking you off course. And I certainly hope everyone is safe, and that that's not something that's, happening in the external, although, that is quite possible. So I would suggest heightened caution, and not letting ourselves get too carried away with a sense of using a burst of energy at the end of a race to just finally, pull ahead and get past the finish line. And then we have all of this momentum that we've been gathering in order to do that. And then to just, change gears immediately can be something that you kind of have to transition into. And if you're not managing it the way you need to, sometimes I've heard that when people exercise, if they don't continue kind of jogging in place for a while and they just immediately go sit down or something like that, they could actually really, really, really hurt themselves. So there's that. If we understand that the momentum that we've got to get us over the finish line is needing to be dealt with in a way that is manageable, so that that momentum doesn't carry forth into the very next thing, that the ego is like, oh yeah, but, and here we go with this great momentum where we've gained all this ground, we could lose it. It talked about the gem that we gained in I-ming's Taoist I Ching. We gain this gem and we have the potential to lose it. So I can't stress enough, I guess, in most readings, there's not something that I really, really have to stress, but in the idea that there's danger and that there could be an element unexpected, even among our own psyche or our posse. What am I thinking? Subordinates. We kind of need to watch our back a little bit and make sure that we're in the right, so to speak, that we're keeping firm principles that are honorable, and that we're not taking the momentum that it took us to get across the line and using it just for any old thing from here on out. We need to gather ourselves, maybe stick close to home, so to speak, and we've maybe crossed the line or are crossing a line, and if that's the case, then it should be in small ways. And with the secret hexagram 48, the well, what's the supporting or hidden influence in the situation? What's interesting about that is I was going over a bunch of the shorts that I've done and throwing them onto my community page, where one of them stood out, and that one was the door. I had a dream about a door to the nether realm, is kind of what I called the short, but I had forgotten the dream entirely. I had made the short on it before, and then going through, I've got a playlist called Dreams or something like that, and it was in there. And when I read the title, I didn't even remember the dream. In the short, I was watching it, and even describing it at the time, I said that it was difficult when I woke from the dream to hold on to what had even happened, because it was like that kind of a style where it was so subconscious that it was like eluding my conscious grasp. But the idea in it is that I was with a group of people, and we were underground or something like that, in this small, kind of dark, dimly lit area. And we were kind of exploring it. And as we were exploring, I think we were setting up these poles, and there were two of them in this one area that we set up. And it reminded me at the time of, like, in watching my kids play I almost said Roblox. They used to play that too, but geez, it's kind of like that. Killing me, Smalls. It's the one where you build and you can dig, and there's a whatever. It doesn't really matter. I'll probably think of it later. You can build a door to the nether world. The nether is what it's called. So Roblox, I think, is like a version. It's kind of like a spin-off of this, or like a... Anyway. Anyway, I think that might be what we were doing, is like building a door to the nether. And it makes me think of the well, and that's why I bring it up. Is that when I watched that video again, it made me feel like having an access to this door to the nether, so to speak, was helpful. Almost like keeping a trap door underneath your bed. The movie or the show Brand New Cherry Flavor on Netflix was really cool and intense and interesting. It's like a dark mind trip kind of a show, but she's got this cellar door kind of thing that she didn't know was under her bed, and she opens it up and goes down there, and it's just this void. It's like the abyss, and it's all dark and is everywhere, you know. She comes down this ladder that goes, I don't know, 10, 15 feet down, and then she's down there, and there's just a couch. But anyway, that kind of an idea. When I think about that in terms of like my own psyche or my own mind, and having an access to that well or that door, that hatch, that cellar door, or the door to the basement, you know, that creepy door that nobody wants to have open for sure, and doesn't, even more than that, doesn't want to go down into. It actually felt like that was essential to keep that door open if possible. And knowing that that is our access to this well, that we need to have enough depth maybe to support, you know, the heights that we're reaching for. I heard somewhere that we can only go to the heights that we have been at the same measure to the depths. And so maybe that's part of this, is that we have this momentum and we're really going after something, but if we forget the depths, we run the risk, I guess, of over promoting the ego and not looking after nurturance and care. And so I suppose in that sense, like a subordinate would be, you know, almost compelled to put us in our place, and rightly so to a degree. We need to be careful what we advocate for and what we promote, especially if we have a burst of energy or influence, that it be something that it nurtures, that is, we use our energy and strength to go to the depths and bring up that well water that sustains. If we're not keeping an eye on those matters, it doesn't matter what changes in our external world. We still need access to that well. We still need that well open. We still need to be able to go to those spaces like the void where things pour out from, and remember the source that we're drawing nurturance from. It's not from, you know, the ego self. We may have gotten really, really good at crossing lines and even done so in small ways that don't offend. But if we don't have that dark breeze whipping past the back of our neck, reminding us of where things are coming from and what everything is rooted in. If you want to think of it like that, you could think of it in terms of all of reality being rooted in something we can't even possibly comprehend. And that it's no thingness, that it we can't drum up an image. And I suppose that's why a well and maybe a cellar door is helpful, because you can picture the gateway, but not necessarily what you're going into when you enter through it. And so the sense of something much more unnameable or describable needs not to be abandoned. It needs to be, we need to make sure we have a long enough rope and a firm enough bucket to draw from that space. And that we're paying attention to what actions are trying to be manifested through us, and protect ourselves, watch our backs, take care of each other, and make sure that some stray impulse doesn't get the best of us, that we nurture that dark space and nurture reality and not live in some illusion. The outer world may change, situations may change, but the one unchanging thing is that well. And that is the support of the entire reading, the secret hexagram. So a turning inward and a deepness, a depth is emphasized far above a height. We will read chapter 44 from the Tao Te Ching next, starting with the Eternal Tao Te Ching by Benjamin Hoff. Which do you love more? Your position or yourself? Which do you love more? Your health or your wealth? Which is more ample? To acquire or to lose? Which does more harm? Too much love for rich things is without doubt a great waste. Too much stored and concealed is without doubt a large loss. If you know what is enough, you will not be disgraced. If you know when to stop, you will not be endangered. If you are able to adopt these principles, you will grow for a long time. And from Jia Fu Feng and Jane English, same chapter 44 from the Tao Te Ching. Fame or self, which matters more? Self or wealth, which is more precious? Gain or loss, which is more painful? He who is attached to things will suffer much. He who saves will suffer heavy loss. A contented man is never disappointed. He who knows when to stop does not find himself in trouble. He will stay forever safe. I'm going to read from this one as well, just kind of I'm curious. From John C.H. Wu, Tao Te Ching 44. Could not have asked for a better chapter from the Tao Te Ching for this reading. 44. As for your name and your body, which is the dearer? As for your body and your wealth, which is the more to be prized? As for gain and loss, which is the more painful? Thus, an excessive love for anything will cost you dear in the end. The storing up of too much goods will entail a heavy loss. To know when you have enough is to be immune from disgrace. To know when to stop is to be preserved from perils. Only thus can you endure long.